Joining me now, Alan Shaw, the CEO of Norfolk Southern. Alan, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and have this conversation.
Thanks for the opportunity, Morgan.
So let's start at the beginning. 19 days ago, 150-car train derails just right over there, essentially across the street. How did it happen?
Well, the investigation is under control of the National Transportation Safety Board. And we're fully cooperating with the NTSB and with the FRA to come up with the root cause of this derailment. I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of that, and then working with our safety regulators and elected officials to see what we can do to make Norfolk Southern a safer railroad.
Yeah. And certainly the Independent National Transportation Safety Board is investigating. Preliminary report is expected first week of March. But what do you anticipate, at least based on what's known so far, that report is going to find?
Well, I can't comment on that. What I will comment on is, in a very unusual move, the head of the NTSB, Chair Hamady, made a statement last Thursday night about all the speculation and misinformation out there about possible causes of the derailment. And she really cautioned people to trust the process and allow the NTSB to do their work. So we have a lot of confidence in the NTSB. We're looking forward to seeing the results, and we'll take the learnings from that to make Norfolk Southern a safer railroad. In the interim, we're really focused on this community. I was here in the immediate aftermath, and I went to the Family Assistance Center that Norfolk Southern had set up, and I went to the Red Cross Center, and I introduced myself, and I told people who I represented, and I wanted them to make sure that they knew Norfolk Southern was going to be here for them, and make sure that they were getting everything they need from Norfolk Southern. So our focus right now is on environmental remediation, cleaning up this site, continual air monitoring, water monitoring, financial assistance to the residents of this community, and investing in this community so that the community of East Palestine can thrive.
Okay. I want to dig into all of that a bit more. And first, I just want to note the fact that, we are near the derailment site. This is an active cleanup site. These are water tanks, a water tank farm that is part of that process as well, hence the trucks that are moving past. But first, though, just to go back to the beginning, because as you mentioned, there has been speculation, there has been some misinformation as all of this has unfolded in the past 2.5 weeks. Hot boxes have been in focus. The fact that there is video that has been released about 20 miles west of here, ahead of the derailment of a wheel shooting off sparks, looking like it was on fire. Just in terms of what we do know so far about how this happened and how it could have traveled 20 miles potentially without the train getting alert. Just walk me through that.
Morgan, I'm really prohibited from talking about this while it's under NTSB investigation. We're fully cooperating with the NTSB and the FRA. We're going to get to the root cause of this. And if changes need to be made, we'll implement those changes. Right now, my focus is on the citizens of this community.
Okay. So 3 days after the derailment, the decision was made to do a controlled release, control burn of some of those tank cars that did hold toxic chemicals, including some that are known carcinogens. Why did that need to happen, and who decided that that was the way it should happen?
So I was here when that decision was made. I was with Unified Command, and Governor DeWine and Governor Shapiro and Mayor Conaway and Fire Chief Drabeck and the National Guard were all aligned that this was the right decision to make in terms of public safety. The fact that we knew at that time that the pressure relief valves on the cars had failed, the temperatures were rising, caused our independent expert to become very concerned about the potential for an uncontrolled explosion that would shoot harmful gas and shrapnel into a populated community. So our independent consultant and the Ohio EPA recommended to Unified Command for a controlled burn and a controlled release. Now, the goal of that was to burn off the harmful chemicals. We had air monitoring in place before, during, and after. And that air monitoring did not pick up any traces of those toxic chemicals. But look, I was here. I know, I saw it. I know how it looked. It was scary. You know, I'd never seen anything like that, and I know the citizens of this community had never seen anything like that. So I know how it looked, and I know how it could scare folks. I also know that based on the test results, it was done in strong consideration of safety of this community, and that was the only factor that was in play during that decision. So
this was a decision that was made in tandem between Norfolk Southern and officials, government officials.
Yes, we were in unified command with the governor, with the fire chief, with the mayor, and with the National Guard.
So in terms of the environmental magnitude of this, still potentially not known. It's an evolving situation, but the EPA and government officials have said that the air and town water are testing safe. Well water still unclear, but that it's free of harmful levels of contaminants. How involved is Norfolk Southern in the testing process?
Well, we set up air monitoring within an hour of the derailment, and water monitoring was in place several hours thereafter. We've been cooperating with the Ohio EPA and local health officials to test the air and test the water. And Morgan, as you noted, every test has come back clean. Every test has come back good. So we've got hundreds of tests and thousands of data points from multiple sources, and they all show that the air and the water quality is good. Now, if folks in this community want additional air testing in their home, they'll get it. If folks in this community want additional water testing, they'll get it. If folks in this community want bottled water, they're going to get it.
How comprehensive are the tests? And I ask that because some residents have complained about burning eyes, sore throats, headaches, and other types of ailments.
Yeah, you know, this has been a traumatic experience, and all the toxicology reports, all the testing shows that we're clean. However, if folks are experiencing symptoms with which they're not accustomed, I would strongly encourage them to go see a trusted medical professional.
If East Palestine was your home, would you have come back? Would you bring your children back right now?
Yes. Yes, I've come back multiple times. I've drinking the water here. I've interacted with the families here. But I know they're hurt. I know they're scared. I know they're confused. They're looking for information and who to trust. I encourage them to ask questions. And I think when they really dig into it, they're going to see that all the testing, whether it's done by the EPA or local health officials or our independent contractors, show that it's safe to return to this community. And my commitment to this community is we will continue with the environmental remediation. We've made a lot of progress, and we're cooperating and coordinating with the Ohio EPA on a long-term remediation plan. We're going to continue our financial assistance to the residents of this community. So far, we've either reimbursed or committed $6.5 million to this community, and we're working with the local officials here on how to invest in this community for the long term to make sure that it thrives.
In terms of some of those reimbursements, one of the things has been a $1,000 inconvenience check. Is there any reason to believe that accepting those checks by residents could limit future payments?
No, not at all. Frankly, that was a mistake. That was a form used by one of our contractors for entry into the home, that type of liability. And as soon as we found out that that was the case, we told them to remove that language, and we put out on our website and made public statements that doing testing absolves Norfolk Southern of no liability. We've been very clear about that.
What does cleanup actually entail? How long does it take? How long will it take?
We've made a lot of progress so far. We've removed about 450 cubic yards of contaminated soil. We've secured about 1.1 million gallons of contaminated water. We're cooperating with the Ohio EPA on a long-term remediation plan, and we're gonna clean this side up. All the testing right now shows that we're The results have been positive so far. We'll continue to monitor, and we're establishing a network of wells in and around the site to test for the groundwater as well.
You've said that you will be here and you'll be supporting the community as long as it takes. How long is as long as it takes?
You know, this isn't about time or money. We're going to do the right thing for this community. You know, I've had the opportunity to meet with a number of members of this community, and they've been really clear with me that they want to make sure that Norfolk Southern is here. We will be here. That's my personal commitment. We're going to do what it takes, and I'm going to see this through, and we're going to help this community thrive.
So when we're talking about something like the release of vinyl chloride into the environment, and I realize so far testing has shown no signs of that, but we're talking about a known carcinogen. There's the possibility that you don't even see the full impacts until 10 years, 20 years from now. So how are you thinking about that? What does that mean in terms of the broader liability picture for Norfolk Southern?
The toxicologists have said that that's not a concern. We're going to continue to test. We're going to let the science take us where it needs to go, and we're going to do the right thing.
Do you have any expectations around what total liability could be for Norfolk Southern?
You know, we're going to have an opportunity to talk about that, Morgan. This isn't the time, nor is it the place to talk about financial impacts. You know, my focus for being here today and my focus in this community is helping with the environmental remediation, getting that going and completed, reimbursing the citizens of this community, and investing in this community to help them thrive. You know, we have a number of employees who actually live in this community, and one of them reached out to me afterwards and says, based on what he knows about Norfolk Southern and what he's seen in our response, he knows we're doing the right things, and he knows we're going to do the right things, and that meant a lot to me. So I visited with him in his home, and he invited some of his neighbors. I sat down with them on Saturday, and they gave me a lot of feedback. It was an emotional discussion, and after that, I asked him to report to my office. I want to direct, so he's reporting into my office, and we gave him an initial contribution of $1 million to invest in this community, work with the citizens of this community to find the best place to invest that $1 million and help this community recover. And I wanted a direct line of communication with this person. I want a liaison with this community, in addition to the community leaders who I've been talking to so frequently, to find out what Norfolk Southern can do, you know, where we can help, what's the best use of our resources.
How does this compare? There was no loss of life, there was no injury tied to the direct derailment, which is important to note because that hasn't always been the case with other major accidents we've seen over the years, tragic accidents we've seen over the years. But how does this compare to some of the previous rail accidents, major derailments we've seen over the decades? And do those set a precedent or a path to recovery from which you are gleaning wisdom?
Yeah, for the citizens of this community, this is a devastating derailment. And a devastating impact on their community, and that's what I'm focused on. That's the only thing that matters right now, is making this right for this community. You know, I talked about the $6.5 million so far. That's a down payment. You know, we're going to continue to invest in this community. We're going to invest in a way at the right time, in the right places, with the right people. And we're going to get it right. You know, as I've been to this community and talked to the folks here, I hear of a really tight-knit community that loves living in East Palestine, and they're really proud of their town, they're proud of their community, they're proud of their neighbors, and I want to help this community thrive.
So when you talk about this being a down payment, what does that mean in terms of investments, longer-term investments into the community?
We're working with the mayor and local leaders on that right now. What can we best do to help this community thrive?
And there's concern that that there will be an impact, for example, on real estate values in the area. When you talk about a down payment, when you talk about investing into the community, how does that factor in?
You know, I can't comment on home prices now or into the future. What I can comment on and reinforce is my commitment to doing what's right for this community.
Okay. Shifting gears a little bit here, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg issued a letter over the weekend. I want to get to that letter in just a moment, but so far he has not come here in person. Are you in contact with him directly? Is he personally involved in this on a day-to-day basis as the situation evolves?
You know, I've spoken to Secretary Buttigieg twice about this, and he's been very clear about his frustration. I've been very clear with Secretary Buttigieg, and I've given him the same commitment that I've given the folks in this community. We are going to continue with the environmental cleanup. We will continue to test and monitor. We will make financial assistance and reimbursement to the residents of the community. We will invest in the future of this community, and I'm committed to making Norfolk Southern a safer railroad.
Because it has, for better or worse, right or wrong, it has become a political talking point. Is it typical when you see a major accident, a tragedy like this transpire, to see the transportation of secretary show up and be on the ground for it?
You know, I understand why there's a lot of interest in this from all sides. Mm-hmm. My focus really is on this community. This is my third time here. Every time I've come here, it's about what I can do for this community.
Understood. The letter, though, from the Transportation Secretary, 3-page letter over the weekend, pretty sharply worded, basically calling on you and on Norfolk Southern to lead the charge for more stringent safety measures for the rail industry. Goes as far as saying, quote, rather than support these efforts to improve rail safety, talking about previous efforts, Norfolk Southern and other rail companies spent millions of dollars in the courts and lobbying members of Congress to oppose common sense safety regulations, stopping some entirely and reducing the scope of others. Goes on to talk about ECP, the phase-in of more durable rail cars, etc. Your response to that?
Well, we're going to let this process play out. As I noted, I've got a lot of confidence in the NTSB. We're fully cooperating with the NTSB and the FRA as they investigate this. I think more broadly, I'm looking forward to having discussions with our regulators and with elected officials on how we can make Norfolk Southern a safer railroad. We're going to look for solutions-based decisions on where we can apply science and where we can make Norfolk Southern better.
So to counter what's said in this letter, what some lawmakers have said, some of the media reports about lobbying to the tune of millions of dollars per year around safety standards, how would you respond? You know,
we're very focused on science-based solutions for safety. You know, we invest over $1 billion a year in maintenance of our tracks, in equipment and technologies to make us a safer railroad. And that's going to continue to be our focus going forward. We're going to learn from this accident, and we're going to engage with the regulators, and we're going to engage with elected officials on how to make Norfolk Southern a safer railroad.
So what are some examples of those science-based ways to make the railroad safer?
Well, there's opportunities for using more technology to catch things that the human eye can't catch.
Okay. Senator Sherrod Brown over the weekend did an interview on television, said, quote, it's the same old story. Corporations do stock buybacks. They do big dividend checks. They lay off workers. Goes on to say these things are happening because the railroads are simply not investing the way they should in car safety in the rail lines themselves. Your response?
Well, as I've noted, we invest over $1 billion a year in our safety program in the form of maintenance, in the form of equipment, and in the form of technology. There's more to be done. You know, as you can imagine, since this occurred, every single day I've asked myself, what what could we have done better? What could we have done to prevent this? And, Morgan, it's pretty clear that our safety culture and our investments in safety didn't prevent this accident. And so we need to take a look at this and see what we can do differently and what we can do better. And that's my commitment.
It's raised the conversation around and the scrutiny of precision scheduled railroading, which is a strategy that many railroads in recent years, including Norfolk Southern, have adopted to some extent or the other. This idea of running longer trains, cutting costs, cutting headcount to create a more effective network to increase service levels and with it potentially profit. Your response to the criticism around PSR and whether it laid the conditions to create an environment in which a derailment like this could have happened?
We're going to see what the NTSB and the FRA say about the cause of this derailment. I'm committed to a safer operation for Norfolk Southern. We're hiring employees, as you and I have talked about before, at a rate that is among the highest in our history. So we're really focused on providing a higher quality service product and a safer product.
Does this change, has it changed in recent weeks, the way you're staffing the railroad or the way you're thinking about investments into the network?
Well, as I noted, we're going to figure out what caused this and what we could have done to prevent this, and we're going to learn from it, and we're going to make changes based on that.
Does there need to be a change to the way that hazardous materials moved by rail are classified, as some lawmakers, and by the way, from both parties, have been suggesting in recent days?
I'm anxious to see the results of the NTSB report, and we're going to sit down with the regulators and those lawmakers to figure out what the best solution is to make the rail industry safer.
So, and I realize investigation pending, we don't know those details yet, but how do you ensure this never happens again?
We're going to continue to work on our safety culture. We're going to continue to work on our investments in safety. And we're going to continue every day to make Norfolk Southern a safer railroad.
I'm just going to counter here. Is there the possibility or the risk of going too far and overcompensating on safety to the point of affecting service or seeing pushback from the industry or your own board?
That we haven't reached that point. As I said, we're going to be really based on, really focused on solution-based outcomes here for safety, using science and using science to help us drive the best investments to drive safety. Again, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I think I need to step back and let the NTSB issue its results, and in the interim, really focus on this community.
We've covered a number of topics thus far, but in terms of that misinformation, are there certain things that have been reported that you would like to set the record straight on right now?
I got to let Chair Homendy complete her report and issue those results.
Your message to the community here and to the American public writ large, especially as some folks might be concerned or nervous or fearful now that a derailment such as this could happen in their communities.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Your message now to the community, not only here, but to the American public writ large, as some folks might be nervous or concerned or fearful that such a derailment could happen in their communities.
Let's let the NTSB report come out. We'll see what the results are. We will continue to invest in safety. Anything that we have learned from this accident, we'll implement. We're going to continue to invest in our safety culture and our investments in safety, and continue to every day make Norfolk Southern a safer railroad. Look, we're going to do the right things by this community too, and each and every day we're going to do the next right thing.
Final question for you. Your message to the workforce of Norfolk Southern, especially since so many of them are here on the ground involved in these remediation efforts.
the Norfolk Southern employees know what our values are, and that we're going to do the right thing. So my commitment to the citizens of East Palestine is the same as my commitment to the employees of Norfolk Southern. We're going to do what's right, and we're going to be here today. We're going to be here tomorrow. We're going to be here a year from now. We're going to be here 5 years from now. And we're going to do what's right for this community and help this community get back on its feet and help this community thrive.
And this is your promise that you will be here on the ground to ensure that happens?
Yes.
Alan Shaw, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for the discussion. Alan Shaw, the CEO of Norfolk Southern.
Thank you, Morgan.